What I like about being a cop is the fact that I get to help people. That's what I started out wanting to do, is really help, make a difference in life. Ever since I was a child, my mother told me when I was 2 years old, sitting on the ground and watch TV would be cops. You know, and since I was a kid, I've always wanted to do that. The anxiety I feel when I go to work every day is the fact that I could run into Sergeant Pace, and knowing that I've made all my complaints to the Sheriff's Department, and knowing that nothing in the end ever happens to him, and worrying about my future, knowing if he's gonna, you know, is he gonna make fun of me today? Is he gonna assault me? Is he gonna kill me? I don't know these things. These are things I don't know. Sometimes I fear knowing that after all this is said and done, if I'm really going to have anybody to help me, back me up if I call for help when I'm working.
Today, the Insider exclusive investigative news team goes behind the headlines in Job Harassment, Deputy Sheriff Ian Roth's story, to examine how Lawrence Bohm, founder of the Bohm Law Group, and Victoria Baiza, an associate trial attorney, are pursuing justice for their client, Deputy Sheriff Ian Roth. Deputy Roth has dedicated his career in law enforcement with the Madera County Sheriff's Department for almost 8 years. And during that time, Deputy Roth states that he has been continually harassed by one of his supervisors, Sergeant Pace, who has a reported history of harassing and discriminating against and being abusive to his subordinates. Deputy Roth states that this is not the first time legal action has been sought due to Pace's behavior. He called a female deputy a sexist obscenity. He calls the only African-American deputy Diddy, and he consistently pulls out his penis as a joke. As a result, Pace has been demoted from sergeant to deputy. But unbelievably, due to technical procedural errors in the investigation, and after a hearing was held, Pace was re-promoted to sergeant. As a result of reporting these harassing incidents to supervisors, Deputy Sheriff Roth has experienced an increase in harassment, retaliation, and isolation after he complained about Pace. By law, every person has the right to work in an environment free of intimidation. Continuous disparaging remarks, yelling, offensive pictures or conversation, assaults, and threats are examples of verbal and nonverbal harassment in the workplace. Harassment can be based on race, religion, or gender, which are the protected classes defined in federal law. But actions that make going to work unbearable for any reasonable person can also be defined as harassment. Harassment can come from a coworker, boss, or client. Creating or maintaining a hostile work environment is also considered workplace harassment. In a hostile work environment, the employee may not be directly harassed, but a pervasive atmosphere of misconduct interferes with the employee's work. Workplace harassment comes in the form of physical, verbal, and sexual. A harassment policy clearly defines what constitutes harassment and gives examples that violate the Civil Rights Act, Americans with Disability Act, and the Age Discrimination Act. Employers are expected by law to have policies in place for workplace harassment so that employees have a clear understanding of what behaviors are disruptive and unlawful. Unwanted sexual advancements, ethnic or age-related remarks, abruptly demoting employees, and verbal aggression should be included in the examples. In addition, the policy should state that the victim does not have to be directly involved. Witnessing a hostile and offensive work environment so much that it interferes with work performance is considered a form of harassment. Laws such as the Civil Rights Act stop a workplace employee from getting away with unacceptable conduct such as nonverbal and physical bullying and intimidation, sexual harassment, and unwarranted performance-related actions such as a sudden demotion. A harassment policy clearly defines harassment and gives employees instructions on how to handle it. Employers are liable for workplace harassment if it is proven that the harassment is reported but no action is taken. For example, if an employee complains to a supervisor about aggressive, demoralizing behavior from a coworker, but the supervisor never follows up or fails to give the appropriate consequences, the company is liable. In addition, if a manager's inappropriate actions result in a sudden employment status change, such as an unwarranted demotion, firing, or benefit change, the company is considered at fault. The Bohm Law Group, which is representing Deputy Sheriff Ian Roth in a lawsuit against the Madera County Sheriff's Department, is alleging religious discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. Lawrence and Victoria have earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as some of the best trial lawyers in Sacramento, in California, and across the United States. Lawrence recently won a landmark $168 million verdict for his client Ani Shaporian in a sexual harassment and retaliation case. Lawrence and Victoria's goals not only to get justice for their clients, but to make sure that everyone is treated with equal respect and dignity as guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. They have built a substantial reputation by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down. Their amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide their clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Sacramento, California.
It is my privilege to introduce Lawrence Bohm and Victoria Bizet to the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my joy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your law firm, Lawrence. What kind of law do you practice?
Well, my law firm is a boutique trial litigation firm with a particular emphasis on helping people who've been injured in accidents or injured in their employment, injured in their civil rights, and we go to court and we fight for people. We fight to keep things fair, and we fight for probably what's now become sort of antiquated notions of justice. But I have a personal mission to revitalize justice in this country and get people to believe in a jury system that works.
Today we are going to discuss a case like that. It is the case of Deputy Ian Roth, Deputy Sheriff Ian Roth. Tell our audience a little bit about the facts of the case.
Okay, well, Mr. Roth started Madera County Sheriff's Department in around 2005. He started working in the courtroom. Shortly thereafter, in around 2007, he started doing patrol work. And once he was preparing to actually go into the field, in 2008, one of his sheriffs assigned him to work with Sergeant Pace. And Sergeant Pace is the main culprit here that...
The bad guy.
The bad guy, the guy that harassed Ian throughout his time. And currently Ian is still working, Deputy Sheriff is still working with Madera County Sheriffs.
Now this case has yet to be filed, correct?
That's correct.
And you're going to be filing it soon?
Very soon.
What are some of the incidents where he is being harassed? And when we talk about being harassed, it's kind of unbearable for him to go to work, and he's a tough guy, right? Everybody can put up with a lot of things, but what does he have to put up with?
Well, the story in this case certainly centers around a theme of anti-Semitism. It's hard to believe in this country that there are still people running around hating people because they're Jewish or because they're black or whatever is their protected status. But in this particular case, the County of Madera is certainly off the beaten path of major metropolis cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. When you get to these outlying counties, sometimes you can find some old ways of doing things. And the story in this case is it's a young man who his wife being a corrections officer, he's always wanted to be in law enforcement. He was very well thought of in terms of how he did his job, how he cared about his job. He actually ended up, a lot of people don't realize this, that some sheriff's deputies work in the courts. And so he actually was working a lot in the courts, even became friends with some of the judges who regarded him as very hardworking and very trustworthy enough to protect them. Unfortunately, Sergeant Pace, who we can call him a protagonist. He's just a person. He's a person who's not being properly managed in his job with the city. Now, I don't believe as much in bad people as I believe in bad management of people. And so Sergeant Pace is entitled to his opinions, and Sergeant Pace is entitled to live his life how he wants to live when he's not at work. But when you're at work, the major incident in this case is after Deputy Roth had complained about, as a Jewish man, having to wear a Santa hat, and as a Jewish man having to tolerate comments about him being Jewish, a workplace where they felt it was appropriate to staple a Jewish star to a hanging stocking. These are the things that he was trying to report. He also reported the way a female dispatcher had been treated by the same man.
He was doing basically, if you're harassed at work and continuously, you go to someone's supervisor, right?
Absolutely.
When he reported it, he went to their supervisor. But what happens usually in cases like this?
Well, unfortunately, when people call me and they ask if they should complain, my standard response is, are you willing to be fired?
Yeah.
Are you willing to be pushed to the point of wanting to quit?
Because they're retaliated against.
That's the word.
Yeah.
And
retaliation can take the form of what in his particular case?
Well, without getting too legal, retaliation could be something as subtle as just changing the workplace a little bit. Having everybody glaring at you and moving your stuff around. Or it could be like in this case where Deputy Roth was slapped in the face by Sergeant Pace. And he reported that as well. And you got to remember, Sergeant Pace is a guy who's in charge of their SWAT program. This is a guy who has access to weapons and is very imposing and very frightening, even to somebody who is a sheriff's deputy. Yeah. And with the complete lack of administrative support, at a certain point, they actually told Deputy Roth that the way they were going to address this problem of him reporting unlawful retaliation, him reporting unlawful anti-Semitism and remarks was to have him wait outside while Sergeant Pace completes the meetings with the officers. And then only when Sergeant Pace is gone may Deputy Roth enter the workplace.
Right, it makes you look like an oddball and not a team player when actually he's doing the right thing. What is your strategy in successfully pursuing this case?
Well, the ultimate strategy in almost all of my cases is education. Education is the cure for civil wrongs. Most of the time, in my opinion, even if the person's intending it and is being vile and despicable, it's also because management doesn't have the education, the culture doesn't have the education. In the case of a public entity, like a county, it's the citizens need the education to understand that these issues are going on, that they're real, and that on a national stage, this is not the way we want America run.
Yeah, in cases like this, what are some of the hurdles and the challenges that you can expect?
We can expect bringing a case in the hometown of the county of Madera against the county of Madera, that we better have our ducks in a row. We can expect that there will be a lot of politics involved in this case, where those who are responsible for the creation and management of this context have to accept responsibility, or accept responsibility in the form of a verdict and a judgment.
Right. In cases like this, it's difficult to find somebody who currently works in the same organization to come forward and corroborate his claims, right?
That's extremely difficult, unfortunately.
Because they jeopardize their own job.
Right. In the law enforcement field, there is at times a sort of code of silence that everyone's afraid to come forward and actually voice their opinions, voice their concerns, because nobody wants to lose their job and their livelihood. And for that reason, it's extremely difficult to get somebody to come forward.
Well, fortunately, we have Deputy Roth today with us, so we're going to bring him on right now so he can tell his story. Let's do that. It is my great pleasure to introduce Deputy Sheriff Ian Roth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank you for coming on this show because I know you're in the midst of a lawsuit that's soon to be filed, and nobody wants to be in your situation. You have dedicated your life to law enforcement, haven't you?
Since a young age.
You have been a sheriff since 2005, is that correct?
But prior to that, I was an Explorer sheriff with the same department when I was a
So this has been
child.
your lifelong career.
Yep.
And you do a great job from all I've read and all accounts that I've seen. And along comes a guy by the name of Sergeant Pace.
Yes.
And he's making your life real difficult, isn't he?
He has made it difficult for a very long time.
What's his problem? What does he do to you?
Well, it started out when I first got hired, and he, I don't know if it was the fact that I'm a Jew. I was born and raised in Jewish religion. I don't know if it was the fact that I got along with everybody. I don't know exactly what triggered him to pick on me.
Yeah. Do you ever have conversations like, you don't like Jewish people, or you ever say that to him?
I've never said that to him, but he's always made jokes
Yeah.
about the religion.
Right.
From pretty much since I started, you know, 2005.
And you just kind of like sucked it up.
I sucked it up because I didn't want to be labeled. That was the whole reason I didn't say anything for so long, is I didn't want to be labeled.
What do your friends in the sheriff's department say about him?
It depends on who you ask and if they're going to
Yeah.
tell you the truth or not.
Yeah.
From what I've heard from other deputies who have opened up to me, is he's done the same thing to them.
Yeah.
You know, there's been different circumstances when he's been addressed and reprimanded for
Right.
name calling and belittling other deputies, and nothing ever happens of it.
Nothing ever happens to him, correct? So a lot of people think he's untouchable,
Pretty
correct?
much.
What does it feel like to go to work every day and go into this environment?
It's very stressful. It's very sad because I don't know. I used to love the job, and I don't love it anymore. I'm worrisome.
You are on stress-related leave right now, is that correct?
No, I'm back at work.
You're
I
back
did
at
go
work.
out on a stress-related leave.
Okay. And you have, filed a complaint
Yes.
with his supervisors.
Yes.
And what happens with these complaints?
From what I understood, that he got a month of leave. I'm not sure if it was paid, unpaid.
Right.
And he got demoted for a certain amount of time, and then he got his sergeant stripes back.
Yeah. I'm
got
sure you would like to have seen this all work out. And if you're on national TV right now, if you were talking with your employer right now, the head person, the sheriff, whatever, what would you say to him to make this a better situation, not only for you, but other people in your situation?
Why can't you, that kind of hits home. Why couldn't you take care of this a long time ago so I didn't have to go through it? Because this has been going on for a very long time, and not just me, other people that have put up with it.
Yeah.
And that's the old adage is, oh, it's just Mike Pace. No, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's just who he is.
I want to point out, we do a lot of shows that are based on real-life legal cases. Most people don't want to sue people. It's only when they can't get the proper solution that they have to resort to the law.
That's true.
And the law doesn't allow this kind of a thing. I mean, who wants to go to work, feeling, if I was in your shoes, I'd worry if I was on a patrol whether someone's going to come and help me.
Yep.
Does that
Oh,
ever
that
cross your
crosses
mind?
my mind every day.
Or
Or
maybe
going
they
to-
send you some situation where it's dangerous, where they know it's dangerous, and they don't tell you.
And how long will it take to get backup? Or if I'm in the courthouse and I happen to see him or see somebody that doesn't like me anymore, and they're the one person that can get through security with a firearm.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
I ask everybody who's on one of our shows, what do they think of their law firm that's representing? How would you?
I think I have the best in the state. That's the reason I came here.
Right. And again, I want to emphasize, this is the last thing you wanted to do.
This was. I tried from day one to get the department to act on this.
Yeah.
And even when it came down to it and I was interviewed, all I wanted was something to happen. And the lieutenant, who is now the undersheriff, Michael Salvador, promised me the world, that it would be corrected. He would not have a department like that. And that never happened. And all I know is everything went away that he promised that was going to change.
Have you talked to him since that time that he promised this?
Yeah.
And what does he say?
It's a personnel matter. I can't speak to you anymore about it.
What does that mean exactly?
That means...
What does that mean?
What it means is that...
I know it means that. I don't want to answer the question.
Well, what it means to me as an employment lawyer is that management and risk management are now involved.
Yeah.
And it's damage control time.
Okay. You're back at work now.
Yes.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show, and we wish you much success, you know, with your lawsuit.
Thank you.
A lot of people ask, what exactly is workplace harassment? What is it, Victoria?
Workplace harassment is any sort of unwelcome conduct. There's a wide spectrum of what could actually count as workplace harassment. It could be anything from physical touching to dirty looks. The main thing to keep in consideration here is that it does have to be severe and pervasive, which we have to be able to convince the trier of fact that it was bad enough to be actionable under the law.
It's got to be so that it really changes a person's attitude in the work environment where they work at, whether it's directed to them or directed at somebody else and they happen to be, you know, a witness to it, correct?
Exactly, exactly. So it goes sort of from a good working place environment to a place where somebody now feels afraid or scared to bring up any sort of concerns.
Right. Lawrence, what about sexual harassment? What is that? Well,
Sexual harassment is a type of unlawful harassment. The mere fact that somebody is being treated poorly at work, it doesn't make it necessarily illegal. Maybe somebody doesn't like you because you're a Cubbies fan. That doesn't make it illegal. You're still being harassed. But sexual harassment basically says you're being harassed because of your sex, your gender. So when the male boss touches the gender parts of the female worker, that's your classic sexual harassment. But it could also be a female boss who makes fun of all the male employees because they have their gender parts or because they're typical men. You know, it really depends on the circumstances. The reality is harassment is the bad thing. Sexual is an adjective, and there are other adjectives like race, harassment, disability, harassment, whistleblower, harassment. One relates to the bad thing, the adjective relates to the motive.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being on the program, and we certainly wish you the best with this case. You'll keep us updated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.